When I stepped out of the cab and looked at my house, something felt wrong. The porch was bare. No potted plants, no welcome mat. But what really hit me was the pile of black garbage bags. There were about 10 of them, just sitting there, stacked beside the door like unwanted trash. And then it hit me. The bags weren't trash. They were mine. My clothes, books, laptop, posters, even my photo albums, everything I owned, was stuffed into garbage bags. My entire life had been packed up and dumped on the porch. Like I didn't matter. Like I never existed in that house. I ran up and knocked on the door. No answer. I rang the bell. Nothing. I even tried my old key, but the locks had been changed. I stood there, heart pounding, not knowing whether to cry or scream. I had just come home from my first year in college. I hadn't even been gone that long. What happened? Why wasn't anyone answering the door? And most importantly, where was my family? Let me take you back to the beginning, so you understand how everything got to this point. My name is Ryan. I grew up in a small town in Indiana with my parents, Tom and Linda, and my younger sister, Emily. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. My dad owned a small auto shop, and my mom worked part-time at the library. We were a pretty close family. Or at least, I thought we were. Growing up, I was the responsible kid. I never partied, always made good grades, and helped around the house. I didn't get in trouble like some of my classmates. I had big dreams of being the first in my family to graduate from college. When I got accepted to Purdue, it was a huge deal. My parents threw me a small party, and even my dad, who rarely got emotional, told me how proud he was. "You're going to make us proud, son," he said, clapping my shoulder. I packed my things and left for school in August. My dorm was small, and the first semester was rough, but I pushed through. I called home every week, texted Emily about her high school classes, and even sent some money back when my mom said things were a bit tight. Around Thanksgiving, things felt off. My parents didn't sound the same on the phone. My dad was always busy, and my mom gave short answers. I figured they were just stressed. When I came home for Christmas break, everything looked normal. But my dad was cold. My mom barely hugged me. And Emily, she avoided eye contact. I asked what was going on, but they brushed it off. "We're just tired," my mom said. "It's been a long year." So I let it go. I thought maybe I was overthinking it. But when I returned for spring semester, I started feeling it even more. Fewer texts, fewer calls, and when I tried to FaceTime Emily, she said her phone was broken. I had no idea what was happening. And now, I was standing on my own front porch, staring at my life in trash bags. I pulled out my phone and called my mom. It went to voicemail. I called my dad. Straight to voicemail. I texted Emily. No reply. My heart was racing. I picked up one of the bags and opened it. It was my winter jacket, stuffed in with some of my old textbooks. Another bag had my bed sheets. Another had my favorite hoodie. Everything smelled like dust and garage. And then I saw it. A folded note tucked inside one of the bags. I pulled it out with shaking hands. It was written on plain white paper. My mom's handwriting. "Ryan, we're sorry it had to be this way. You need to grow up and learn responsibility. You made choices, and we can't support those anymore. Please don't try to contact us." That was it. No explanation. No details. Just a cold goodbye like I was some stranger. Tears filled my eyes as I sat on the porch, surrounded by my life in plastic bags. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. "Don't go to the neighbors. They don't know anything." I froze. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. Who sent that? And why didn't they want me talking to anyone? I looked around the street. Empty. Quiet. Too quiet. Something was very wrong. And I was going to find out what did I stared at those garbage bags on the porch like they weren't even real. I had no idea where to go or what to do. My hands were shaking, my mind racing, but I couldn't cry. It felt like I had just walked into someone else's nightmare. I bent down, unzipping one of the bags. My favorite hoodie, the one my best friend Jordan gave me for my birthday, was stuffed inside like trash. Next to it was a box of school notes I spent years collecting, now bent and wet from the morning dew. I dropped to my knees, numb. A neighbor across the street, Mr. Keller, an old man who always waved to me when I mowed the lawn, walked out to get his paper. He looked confused when he saw me. "Dylan, you okay, son?" he called out. I tried to answer, but my voice cracked. He jogged over, saw the bags, and the confusion turned to worry. "Where's your folks?" "Gone," I whispered. "I don't know where they went. Everything's gone." He helped me gather my stuff and let me sit in his living room. He gave me coffee, even though I don't like it, and listened as I told him everything, from how I went off to college with nothing but their promise to keep things safe, to coming back to this. Mr. Keller didn't say much, but the look in his eyes said he knew something. The less extreme part of the day came when he offered me a spare room in his basement for the night. It had a dusty couch, an old TV, and a small lamp that flickered when you turned it on, but it was better than sleeping next to trash bags. I thanked him 1,000,000 times. He just nodded and said, "You're not trash, Dylan. Never think that." I tried to sleep, but I kept thinking, what kind of parents do this? And why? Had I done something wrong? I checked my phone, still no texts, no missed calls, nothing from Mom or Dad. It was like I'd been erased. The next morning, I decided to walk to my high school guidance counselor, Ms. Turner. She was always kind and told me I could talk to her even after graduation. I figured maybe she knew something or could help me figure out what to do next. But when I walked into her office and told her what happened, she stared at me like she didn't know where to begin. Then she said the words that made my stomach twist. "Dylan, they came to see me 2 months ago. They asked if I had seen you. They looked upset." I blinked. Why would they come here if they knew I was at college? Ms. Turner swallowed hard. "They said you dropped out." "Dropped out? That's not true. I'm doing well. I just finished finals. I have my report card right here." I pulled out my phone and showed her. Her eyes scanned the screen. She was clearly trying to understand, just like I was. Then she said something even worse. "Dylan, your parents told me you were on drugs. They said they found pills in your room." My heart nearly stopped. I shook my head. "That's not true. I've never touched anything like that." Ms. Turner looked like she believed me, but now there were bigger questions. Why would my parents lie? Why would they go so far to make me look like some addict? Was it to cover something up? That's when I remembered something strange from a few months ago. I got a weird email from an unknown account. It said, "Watch your back. Not everyone is who they say they are." I thought it was spam and deleted it. But now I wasn't so sure. I left Ms. Turner's office, confused and angry. And then, just as I stepped onto the sidewalk, my phone buzzed. A message. From that same unknown email. A message. From that same unknown email. It said, "They did it for the money. Find the papers in the blue box." I froze. What blue box? And what money? The rain hadn't stopped when I woke up the next morning. I stayed curled up on my friend's old couch, wrapped in a blanket, hoping that maybe, just maybe, everything that happened was a terrible dream. But the ache in my chest and the memory of the garbage bags full of my life told me it was all real. Sarah made me coffee and offered me a hug. I took both. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked gently. I shook my head. "Not yet." Instead, I focused on one thing, figuring out what to do next. I still had a few weeks left before college ended for the semester, but I needed to go back to finish it. I couldn't just drop out now. I had worked too hard. With Sarah's help, I called my professors and explained I'd be finishing the semester remotely. They were understanding, though I left out the part about my parents dumping my stuff outside. I couldn't even say the words without choking up. A few days later, I found a cheap room to rent. It wasn't much, just a basement with a mattress on the floor, but it was mine. I worked nights at a diner and studied during the day. I told myself I was fine. I told myself I didn't need them. But at night, I still cried sometimes. I wanted answers. I wanted to know why they did it. I hadn't spoken to my parents since the day I came home and found everything gone. My phone had blown up with messages from relatives saying things like, "You need to stop being selfish and you put too much pressure on your mom and dad." I had no idea what they were talking about. Then I got an email from my mom. It wasn't an apology. It was worse. She said they needed the space. That I wasn't contributing enough. That they wanted to downsize and thought I'd be fine since I was in college. She ended it with, "We raised you. It's time you stand on your own now." I read that email 5 times. I wanted to scream, to punch a wall. But instead, I just closed my laptop and stared at the ceiling. Why now? Why like this? What had I done so wrong? I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I poured all my energy into finishing school and working at the diner. I saved every dollar I could and tried not to think about how lonely I felt. One night at work, while refilling coffee for a couple of regulars, I overheard a man talking loudly at the counter. "Crazy world," he said. "Saw on the news some parents kicked their kid out while she was away at college. Can you imagine?" I froze. My heart dropped. Could he be talking about me? I rushed over to the break room and searched online. There it was. A photo of our porch. My bags in plain sight. The headline, "College student comes home to find belongings in trash bags." I stared at the screen, heart racing. How did this story get out? Who shared it? The article didn't mention my name, but the picture was clear enough for anyone who knew us to recognize the house. My hands shook as I scrolled down. And that's when I saw the comments. Hundreds of them. Some called my parents heartless. Others called me lazy. Strangers argued back and forth, not even knowing who I was. I had no idea what to feel, anger, shame, fear? But what I did feel, without a doubt, was that something bigger was happening. And that's when I got the message from someone I hadn't heard from in years. It read, "Hey, I saw the article. We need to talk. It's about your parents." It had been days since I stood in shock, staring at my belongings in garbage bags on the porch. I spent that night pacing back and forth in my small, empty apartment, replaying the moment over and over. The phone call I made to my parents, the disbelief on my face when I heard their voices on the other end of the line. They hadn't cared. They were adamant that I needed to figure it out on my own. I couldn't understand why they would do something like this. I was their daughter. I had always been there for them, even when they didn't ask for help. I had supported them during tough times, when their business went under, when Dad had a health scare, when they needed money. Yet, here I was, thrown out as if I meant nothing. The emptiness in my chest was suffocating. I tried calling my mom again, but this time, she didn't pick up. It felt like she was avoiding me. Maybe she was too ashamed to talk. My father. He was unreachable. The last time I heard from him, he had mentioned something about a trip, a concert with friends. That was all he cared about. And now, everything I had, my clothes, my books, my life, was piled up like trash. The pain was sharp. My heart raced as I stared at the streetlights outside my window. I wasn't sure what to do next. Should I call the police? Should I reach out to a friend? But who could help me now? No one was there for me. I grabbed my phone again, not to call my parents, but to call someone else, someone who had always been there. That someone was my best friend, Jake. He lived nearby, and we'd grown up together. He knew my parents well, and maybe, just maybe, he would have an answer or even some advice. I dialed his number and let it ring. I needed someone, anyone, to help me make sense of this chaos. The call went straight to voicemail. "Jake, please pick up," I whispered to myself. But nothing. I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about me being kicked out. It was more, so much more. Was this the last straw? What happened to my parents? Why were they acting like this? Suddenly, the feeling of loneliness hit me even harder, like a wave crashing down. I had no answers, no way of getting to the bottom of what was happening. As I sat there, lost in thought, my phone rang. It was Jake. I quickly answered the phone, my voice trembling. "Jake? Are you there?" His voice came through, calm but with an edge of concern. "Hey, what's going on? I saw your texts. I'm sorry I didn't pick up earlier, but I'm here now. What happened?" I felt a flood of emotions hit me all at once. Relief, sadness, frustration. I sank back into the couch, clutching my phone like a lifeline. "Jake, you won't believe it. I came home from college, and my parents, they kicked me out. They threw all my stuff out, put it in garbage bags on the porch, and just left it there. They didn't even care." There was a long pause on the other end. I could hear Jake breathing, probably trying to process what I had just said. "Wait, what? They did what?" "I don't know why. I tried to call them, but they're not answering. I just don't understand. I've always helped them, supported them through everything, and this is how they treat me." I could hear Jake exhale sharply. "Look, I don't know what's going on, but we need to get to the bottom of this. Have you talked to anyone else? I know this is all messed up, but we can figure this out. Don't worry, okay? You've got me, and I'll help you through this." His words were like a balm to my soul. For the first time since I had arrived back home, I felt a glimmer of hope. Jake always knew how to keep things in perspective. He was the kind of friend who always had my back, no matter how messy the situation. "I don't know where to start, Jake. I don't even know why they would do this. I don't want to believe it's because they don't care, but how else can I explain it? Maybe it's not about you at all. Maybe something's going on with them. I know it's hard to see it that way right now, but they might be going through something you don't know about." I rubbed my eyes, feeling the exhaustion from the past few days weighing heavily on me. But why didn't they talk to me? Why didn't they tell me what was going on? "I don't know, but you'll find out. We'll figure it out together." Jake's words reassured me, but I still had so many questions. I had always thought my parents would be there for me, no matter what. Yet here I was, alone, struggling to make sense of their actions. "I don't even know what to do next," I admitted. "Okay, listen, let's take this one step at a time. First, why don't you come over here? You can stay with me for now. We'll figure things out together." Jake always knew how to make me feel like I wasn't alone, even when the world seemed like it was falling apart. I didn't have the strength to argue. "Yeah, okay. I'll be there in a little bit." "Good. And don't worry. We'll get through this." I ended the call and stared at my phone for a moment. There was a lot I needed to process, but for now, I had a plan. I grabbed my jacket, picked up my keys, and left the apartment. My mind was still reeling from everything that had happened, but at least I had a friend who was there for me. Maybe that was all I needed to start picking up the pieces. As I walked out the door and into the night, I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the end of the story. There was more to uncover, more to understand, and I was going to find out what it was. The next few days were a blur. I stayed with Jake, and he was a huge help in trying to keep my mind off everything. We talked late into the night, sharing old memories and new ideas about what could have led my parents to treat me like this. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about what had happened. My mind kept circling back to the moment I saw the garbage bags, to the words my parents had said, or, more accurately, the silence that filled the air when they refused to even look at me. I was beginning to lose hope that I would ever understand what had happened. But Jake wouldn't let me give up. He kept pushing me to reach out to other family members, cousins, aunts, uncles, to see if anyone had heard anything. Maybe someone knew what was going on. It was late one afternoon when my phone rang. I saw that it was my cousin, Laura. She'd always been close to me, and I hadn't talked to her in a while. I answered quickly. "Hey, Laura. How's it going?" "I'm okay, but I'm really worried about you. Are you doing okay?" I felt a knot tighten in my chest. The last thing I wanted to hear right now was more worry. I'm hanging in there. But things have been crazy. You won't believe what happened." I told her everything, how I came home, found my belongings in garbage bags, and how my parents refused to even talk to me. I expected her to say something comforting, to tell me that it was a misunderstanding, that maybe they had been under stress or something like that. But what she said took me by surprise. "You don't know the whole story," she said, her voice low. "What do you mean?" I asked, confusion creeping into my words. "I didn't want to tell you before, but I think you deserve to know. Your mom and dad, they've been having a lot of problems lately. Financial issues, health scares, stuff that they didn't want anyone to know about." I was stunned. Why wouldn't they tell me? I'm their kid. I would have helped them. I think they were embarrassed. They didn't want anyone to know how bad things had gotten. I felt my heart sink. My mind was racing with questions, but I couldn't find the words to ask them all. "So, are you telling me they kicked me out because of their problems?" "I don't know for sure, but I think they might have felt like a burden. Like everything was spiraling out of control, and they didn't want to drag you down with them." The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I couldn't understand why my parents, the people who had always been there for me, would push me away like that. The idea that they felt like a burden was both heartbreaking and confusing. "I don't know what to say, Laura. Why didn't they tell me?" "I think they were trying to protect you in their own way. They didn't want you to see them struggle. But you need to talk to them. They're not the same people they were when you left for college." I felt a mixture of anger and sadness swelling up inside me. I couldn't believe my parents had treated me like that, had pushed me away when I was the one who could have helped. But as much as I wanted to scream at them, I knew deep down that this wasn't the time for anger. If I was going to understand what had really happened, I needed to approach this calmly. I needed to talk to them. "I need to go talk to them," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I know it's hard, but I think that's the right thing to do," Laura agreed. "Just take it slow. They're going to need time." We hung up, and I stared at the phone in my hand. My mind was racing. I didn't know if I was ready to face them, didn't know if I was ready to deal with the hurt and the confusion. But I knew I had to. If there was even the slightest chance that we could fix this, I had to try. I spent the next few hours gathering the courage to go back to my parents' house. I didn't know what I was going to say, but I knew I had to confront them. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, not knowing the truth. When I arrived, the house looked the same as it always had, quiet, still, almost like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. And I didn't know what I would find once I walked through that door. Taking a deep breath, I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, and this time, the door creaked open slowly. My mother stood there, her eyes wide with surprise. She looked tired, worn down, and it broke my heart to see her like that. "Mom," I said, my voice trembling. For a moment, she just stared at me. I could see the guilt and shame in her eyes. Then she stepped aside, allowing me to enter. "I didn't think you'd come back." "I had to, Mom. We need to talk." She nodded, her face tightening. "I know. I've been waiting for you to come." I stepped inside the house, the familiar smell of coffee and old books filling the air. Everything felt like it used to, yet, at the same time, it didn't. My heart was heavy as I walked into the living room, where my father was sitting, looking as though he'd been waiting for me, too. He didn't say anything at first. The silence between us felt deafening. Finally, I spoke, breaking the quiet. "I don't understand what happened. Why did you kick me out?" After everything we've been through. My father's face softened, and I saw a flicker of regret in his eyes. He opened his mouth as if to say something, but the words seemed stuck. My mother, standing by the door, finally spoke up. We never meant to hurt you, honey. We didn't want you to see how bad things had gotten. I looked at her, bewildered. Bad things? What do you mean? My mom sat down slowly, her hands trembling as she clasped them together. We've been struggling with money for a long time. Your father's health has been declining, and we didn't want you to have to bear that weight. We thought if you didn't know, you'd be free. Free from worrying about us. My father cleared his throat, finally finding his voice. It wasn't just the money, though. I've been getting weaker, and I didn't want you to see me like this. I thought if I kept it from you, you could focus on your future. I didn't want you to feel like a burden. The tears started welling up in my eyes. But, Dad, I'm not some stranger. I'm your daughter. I would have been there for you. I am here for you. My mother reached out, placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. We didn't think you'd understand. We thought it would be better if we handled it ourselves. But looking back, we realized that was a mistake. We should have been honest with you. I swallowed hard, trying to keep the tears in check. The weight of their actions, their fear, their guilt, was a lot to process. But I could see that they were broken too, that they had been carrying their burdens in silence, thinking they were protecting me. I sat down across from them, taking a deep breath. It's not just about the money or your health, is it? It's about feeling like you're not enough, that you're not worthy of help. My mother nodded, her eyes brimming with tears. Exactly. We didn't want to feel like we were taking something from you. We wanted you to succeed on your own. I felt a sharp pang of guilt in my chest. But you're my parents. You raised me. I don't want to live my life without knowing you're okay. I can't just leave you behind. The room was silent again, but this time, it wasn't heavy with resentment. It felt like a moment of realization, a moment where the truth was out in the open, and there was no more hiding. We had all been carrying these heavy emotions, afraid to speak up, afraid to ask for help. But now, there was an opportunity to heal. I'm sorry, my father said, his voice hoarse. I should have trusted you. We should have been more open with you. I should have come home sooner, I replied. I should have known something was wrong. I think we all should have done things differently, my mom added, wiping away a tear. There was an unspoken understanding between us, something that felt like the beginning of a new chapter. We weren't going to pretend everything was fine anymore. We were going to face this together, as a family. And though the road ahead would be tough, I knew it was a road we could walk together. After a long pause, I stood up, the weight of everything starting to feel lighter. I'm not going anywhere. We're in this together now, okay? My mom and dad both nodded, their faces softening. For the first time in a long time, I saw hope in their eyes. I'm here for you, I said again. And we'll figure this out. The three of us hugged, and though I could still feel the weight of everything that had happened, something in my heart had shifted. Things weren't perfect. They wouldn't be for a while. But we had a chance now, a chance to rebuild and heal. Together. As I left their house later that day, I felt a sense of calm wash over me. The bags from the porch were long gone, replaced with new memories. Memories of honesty, healing, and the strength of family. And I knew that no matter what came next, I would always be there for them. Because that's what family does. We lift each other up, even when the weight feels too heavy to bear. And with that, I knew I was finally home. If you like this, then do subscribe and hit that notification icon to get our videos daily.